Doritos. I love to hold them tenderly and fold them. Oh, how I dread to eat with bread. Believe me, ya no hay tortillas, solo hay pan. There's no tortilla.
Today's meeting, once again, is in Noe Montoya's memory. I just want to remind everyone that on March 13th at 2 p.m., we will be having a memorial service for him. It'll be on Raza Roundtable's Facebook page. More information about that will be coming out later. First, what we're going to do is we were going to have Eddie Garcia, the police chief of Dallas, come back and do our invocation. But I think he's been held up, and Dallas has many things going on. So we'll take this moment really for Noe and just want to take a moment in silence for him, if we could. Thank you very much. What we are going to do, there is a student from Milpitas Unified School District, a bright, articulate. I first met her when she wrote a poem with regard to the Keystone oil line that was going to go across the U.S. from Canada. And she wrote a poem, was written up in the New York Times. And that's when I found out that she actually lived in the same city that I did. She is now a sophomore in Milpitas. And she's written another poem for us. So America, if you take the moment and just want to read your poem, we'd appreciate that.
Hi, okay, so my poem is called Enough is Enough. I wrote this about the Keystone XL pipeline with crude and oil that is currently being stopped by President Biden. So I just wanted to thank him for hauling it, but there are still more battles that we have to fight. So this is just something I wrote before when this was starting. Enough is enough. You say this land is your land, but this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, with moccasins on their feet, our ancestors walked to protect and defeat. Quiet mountains, thunderous rivers, we will protect you. Hear our war cry. Weary with exhaustion, embodied with suffering, we stand in battle till the end of trial. No pipelines, no manifest destiny, no more wounds upon our Mother Earth. We come from the sacred dirt beneath our feet. We were blessed with our water, blessed with our hills, blessed with our air, blessed with our fire, blessed with our Father Son, blessed by our Mother Earth. Inherited to us, only with greed does our Mother Earth require a fee. Enough is enough. Thank you.
America, I remember you with your first poem sitting up at the city council table with me and also at the school board table with me. There are times that we have to remember that we need to listen to the youth of our nation. Too often, persons such as myself think we have all the answers, and truly we don't. So I want to thank you for coming. I think that it's important that once you graduate from Milpitas High School, that you pick a university to go to, finish your education there. And towards that end, Raza Roundtable and the News Community Foundation is going to give you a $5,000 scholarship to go to whatever university you want to go to. I want you to consider La Sierra University. the dean of the School of Business there, Dr. Johnny Thomas, is exceptional. And if not the School of Business, any school at La Sierra University. It's in Riverside County, down south. Right now, there are two students from that university that are helping us with research, Christian Lott and Elijah Velasquez. I'm going to put you in contact with them. Most persons from the Bay Area never leave the Bay Area. I want you to know that it's important to go see other places. You've already proven that when you went to recite your first poem. So we're all invested in you. So thank you for coming, and you'll be hearing from us again. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Next we have, and as many of you know, Nuria Fernandez, who was the general manager, CEO for VTA, left and is now working also for the federal government. We changed the chair in January. The new chair now is Glenn Hendricks with the Sunnyvale City Council. Glenn, who I've known for quite some time, really represents, they call it the small cities, though I don't know how you call Sunnyvale a small city, but he is somebody that we've been able to go to, talk about the needs for mass transit, was instrumental in making sure that we got our needs met when it came to the Bart, when it comes to bus routes. And right now, during the pandemic, most persons are really worried about many things, but we can't lose sight of what we need to be doing. And so Glenn's come on to sort of talk as the chair, what his goals are for this year. And so Glenn, if this is now your time.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's good to see you again. It's been a while
Yeah.
since we've been able to sit in a meeting together. Hello to everybody. My name is Glenn Hendricks. I'm the vice mayor of the city of Sunnyvale. I've been on the city council for about 7 years, and I was the mayor of Sunnyvale for 3 years. I've had the honor of being on the VTA board for the last almost 5 years. I was the vice chair last year, and it's just kind of our natural rotation that I became the chair here on January 1st, 2021. I wanted to go ahead and I'll just say a few things and then, see if we go to any questions that people might have. But in my opening comments of the first board meeting, the first Thursday in January, I talked about what I thought were the important things we needed to go ahead and focus on from a VTA perspective. And this is not an all-inclusive list. There's lots of other things, but this is really where we should kind of focus and prioritize. We need to continue to provide safe and reliable service for our residents. And I'll get into a little bit more about that. We have to manage our short and long-term financials. Even before COVID-19, VTA has some financial challenges that it's having to work through. We're going to go and look at creating a business plan so we can take a look out and try and get farther out in the future with what happens with our operational costs. If you just kind of think of things, our operational expenses are climbing, our income for operations is flat or declining, and at some point those are going to cross in a way we don't want. So we need to get ahead of that for what goes on. We have to clarify how we're going to deal with our Measure B spending plan, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. As Bob mentioned, Nuria has gone off and is working in the Department of Transportation. When I found out about this news that she was leaving, my first response to her was, she told me over the phone, and it was, Glenn, are you still there? That was my first response. But I'm actually very happy for Nuria. I think this is professionally and personally very good for her. I think it's good for America, what she can do for the Department of Transportation. I in no way wanted her to leave VTA. She was doing fantastic work, but going to work with the Biden administration, I think, is wonderful. I also have, not only am I the board president of VTA, but I also sit now on the Caltrain board. And the Caltrain board, as of April, they're going to be doing and needing a new general manager as well. So I sit on 2 different transportation organizations that are in the Bay Area here that are vital to us, where I'll be looking to hire a new general manager. Also, it's of note that we're also looking for a chief financial officer at VTA. So we've got some gaps that we're having to fill at the top of the VTA. And then this almost goes without saying, is we have to manage our way through COVID-19. And that really goes back to the first item that I talked about, where we have to continue to provide safe and reliable service to our residents. And partially what that means is we're having to deal with the financial impacts of it. But what we're doing for cleaning and sanitizing our vehicles and our facilities, for what goes on, requiring a face mask, safe distancing on the bus, which has caused a problem where on certain of our routes, we've been having to leave people on the side of the road. So here, even in this era where we want people to take public transportation, we're sometimes having to leave people on the side. And we're just, I think, this week making some service level changes to try and get on routes where we consistently see this happening, trying to be able to get more bus service there so we can service our residents. And then, we're also trying to not only protecting the passengers that are riding, but also protections for our workforce and what we're doing there. So that's just kind of a quick snapshot of what's important at VTA. And Bob, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you that you could probably answer since you spent time on the VTA board. We sat near each other on the board.
That's true. But you're going to do a much better job. So there are some questions that have come in. One is maybe talk about the timeline and the process with regard to the replacement of Nuria. Mostly if community is going to be involved in that selection process.
So the first thing of what we had to do, because of this is in this transition and what was going on with the Biden administration, Nuria's last day was on the 19th at midnight. We got the official notice from her that she was leaving on the 19th in the morning for what was going on. So obviously we've put Evelyn Tran, the Chief General Counsel of VTA, into the acting role of what goes on. We have authorized VTA staff to create a search and hired a search firm for what we're going to go ahead and do. I've created an ad hoc committee within the board that will act as that search team. And as appropriate, as we can kind of get this a little bit better, and if it makes sense, I don't know if we'll having public input on the search criteria, but there may be opportunities for certain members of the public to participate in the interview process as we get to that. There are some interesting opportunities that I will not discuss that where we might be able to get somebody right away, or it might end up being that the process is going to take 6 or 9 months. And, I really can't say much more about that right at this moment.
Okay. Man, I forgot about the second position you talked about, the fiscal one. Is that already out for recruitment, or are you studying that one? Just the timeline for that also.
Yeah, Raj Srinath was the CFO of VTA, and his departure, he didn't do anything wrong. He went ahead and for his own personal reasons, he decided to take a job out on the East Coast. We had already started the process to hire that, and we had some candidates where we were moving towards. But the feedback we've gotten from everyone in that process is don't want to interview anything until you find out who the general manager is going to be. They want to know who's going to be at the top. They don't want to just come in and then somebody else comes in as their boss, which we completely understand. So we're not stopping the process on the CFO, but we're just kind of going to slow that down to try and get the general manager done, and then be able to jump right on top of that and get that completed. But I do want to go ahead and say the VTA staff and leadership team is very strong. Obviously, we'd want to have the full-time people in place, but I believe we have good, talented individuals who know what's going on, who are going to be able to keep us running smoothly in the interim while we're going through this search process.
And so I'm going to try to combine these two questions. One is the impact on the BART extension through downtown San Jose, and just the impact the impact of Nuria leaving on also the changes that were made to the bus routes. Now with Nuria leaving, do you see anything happening with that? Are you just going to go through with the plans that are already there? Are you going to stop right now and reassess? Just what are your plans going forward?
Well, we're not stopping anything.
Okay.
First off, when people talk about, changes, there had been a discussion of, there's this whole discussion of, 70%, 80%, 90% service levels of what we were trying to do. We're actually running around, I think it's around 75% service hours right now. And we want to try and inch that up into the 80% range. So we're not trying to cut service hours. There may be some redirection of the service hours that we do, again, trying to get to where the riders are, and we're not leaving on the side of the road. It's a very interesting thing in terms of our overall budget. We're still spending about 80% of the money for service hours that we had been pre-COVID for roughly 12 to 14% of the riders. So, those are two interesting numbers that we're trying to balance. And we want to try and be relevant and stay prepared that we can go ahead, and as we can get more riders on through COVID and post-COVID, whenever that kind of really occurs. So that's the fine line we're walking. We're going to continue to try and do that, and staff is operationalizing that. But I think what I just described is kind of the board's direction of what we want to go ahead and do. In terms of, we're very happy, we got phase one of Bart up and operational during COVID. There were, obviously there were some challenges on timing, but I think that's interesting. We were able to get it activated. It's got ridership numbers that are nowhere near where we want things to be, but we're keeping that operating and running. We want to continue to press forward as fast as we can with Bart phase 2. I mean, that's a shovel-ready program, an EIR-ready program. Not only does it have local money in it, Measure B money, state money, federal money. We're in the FTA. They have a new expedited process to try and get the project through. We've submitted all of our paperwork, and they have to respond back within, it was either 60 or 90 days, which is an unbelievably fast time within federal land. Now we're able to do that because we did a lot of pre-work on the submission beforehand. And they're very supportive, and the program looks good for being able to get additional money. So, the board still needs to take some additional votes on that, but we're continuing that path. I will say, it's always nice to have friends in Washington, although, Nuria may need to recuse herself from anything related to us. But, that's a program that's been in place, working. And, I think as appropriate, and the board makes a couple more votes, we continue on with that. It's sometimes people ask me, well, Glenn, why do you care about Bart into downtown San Jose and up to Santa Clara? It actually doesn't touch the borders of Sunnyvale, and it doesn't. But from a congestion management and what it can do to help traffic flow, down 880 into San Jose, what we can do with congestion management, how that relates to taking greenhouse gases out of the air. It really is a very positive program, and we will continue to implement it as we can.
Okay. So first, I want to thank you very much. We are going to go to Otto Lee next, but next month at our meeting, we are inviting Evelyn Tran to come and speak too. We'd like to invite you to come with her because I'm noticing there's a number of questions about the light rail, Capitol Light Rail extension into East Ridge and its priority and where it sort of lands and such. And so we don't have time today for that, but I'd like to invite you both back. We're going to give you a little larger segment of time to deal with that. And also there was a story today about the number of COVID cases and with regard to just the workforce. And so we would like a little more in depth, but I did want the group to actually get to meet you as chair and say thank you for taking on the added responsibility. You don't get thousands of dollars more for doing this, and I know the workload that goes with this, and we want to thank you for that. So stick around because I was right after you, and he may say a few things about it. And at the very end, we'll invite you all back on. So don't go too far.
Okay, and I just want to say the capital, the extension out to East Ridge, that is still a priority. I know people want to have questions and stuff, but that is on the books. It is moving forward.
Thank you very much. So now we're going to go to a favorite Board of Supervisor, Otto, District 3, newly elected, hardworking, to give us an update. I only wore a tie because I knew he would be wearing a tie. I think one of the important things we try to do with La Raza Roundtable is make sure that you get to see your elected officials. You get to know them so that when you have an issue, you have a concern, you can call their office, you can interact with their staff. Otto represents an area that Milpitas, El Viso, parts of the east part of the foothills in San Jose. It's important that he's replacing Dave Cortez, who went to represent us in Sacramento, is going to do a fantastic job. And I have no doubt, Otto, that you're going to do a fantastic job on the Board of Supervisors for us. So we'd like to have you give us an update on what's going on in District 3, maybe a view of your first few days on the Board of Supervisors. So, Supervisor Otto. But we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
How about now?
There you go. Now we
There
can.
we go. Thank you. As they say, for every time I mute my phone and talking, I get $1. I'll be pretty wealthy by now. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me, and truly honored to be speaking with the group of La Raza Roundtable today. We've been friends for many, many years. I still remember coming to the auction and the raffle tickets and all those great times we've had, but unfortunately, we can't do any of it because of COVID. So hopefully, with the vaccination coming through, we will be able to do that maybe in a few months. But certainly, right now, I'm telling people, try to do the best you can. I know hunkering down is hard, but really, that's the safest thing to protect you, protect me, and protect everybody else. Whoever thought that going to a grocery store is now a dangerous activity, right? And that's the type of stuff that we talk about now at the Board of Supervisors. And we have a proposal right now to talk about trying to get the grocery stores and potentially fast food areas to pay the workers extra $5. We call it the hazard pay. Just so happens Cindy Chavez, along with Susan Ellenberg, had the exact same idea, and they call it the heroes pay. But basically, it's the same idea. We both proposed at the same time. And for those of you who follow the government, there's this thing called Brown Act. So we can't have more than 3 people talking to each other since there's 5 of us of any item. And Bob knows that well, being formerly on the Milpitas City Council with 5 people, right? So clearly we didn't talk to each other, but we had the same idea, and that's how it came about in the last meeting. So we have 2 separate referrals, talk about the same thing, so we know clearly that there's already a majority that will support something like this, which is very exciting. But that doesn't mean it will still happen because of the fact that it's going to be emergency ordinance. We still need to get a word out. So please talk to your other supervisors that this is an important thing that we need to support, and we'll vote on it the next meeting. But this is the type of stuff that we're working at the county to help deal with issues. Like one of the big issues this past Tuesday about the issue of social justice. Most important things of our what are we going to do with incarceration and jail? We all know about the mass incarceration of this country, of the massive over incarceration of our minorities, many of our people of color. And what we are seeing is that after COVID, there's over 1,000 inmates that have been released from our county jail. And despite that, we are not seeing a lot of increase, as a lot of people might have feared, on crime. So we really are seeing that a lot of times we are incarcerating people that really shouldn't be there, or there are other ways better to deal with that situation. So these are the issues we're dealing with. One big issue, of course, is regarding mental health, and the idea Dave Cortez, before he left, he tried to propose putting a mental health facility being built for that. And these are the issues that we're working really hard to try to make it work for our county in the long run. Very big proposals, but it's going to affect our county in so many different ways. Many other the things that we are, of course, working with is, as we all know, this COVID visit. We are in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. And there's no clearer indication of how this inequity is when you look at what happened to our east side of our people of color. How many more folks are getting, especially Latino community, has the highest percentage of COVID victims, COVID being affected in the community. So it's absolutely crucial that our county put our resources where the need is. And so we have just ramped up this week. Tuesday, I believe Thursday is the days that we're now doing, having these vaccinations being taking place at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, and we'll be doing it week after week. Right now, the biggest problem with the vaccinations is really supply. It's no longer a medical question, it's really a logistics question. Being a former Navy supply logistics officer, I do know a little bit about logistics up to 20 years. Right now, it's about making sure that the federal government, through the state, is going to get us the vaccines as soon as possible. For example, this past week, we only got a dose of 20,000, which seems like a lot, but it really isn't. When we have ramped up to give out close to 6,000 vaccines a day, 20,000 will last us 4 days. So that's the type of situation we're dealing with, is making sure that the vaccines we receive is to be as fast as possible, and also having the second dose to be ready for those people either 3 or 4 weeks after, depending on which one, Moderna or Pfizer, to make sure that we also schedule your second dose. The way it works is this: after you get your vaccine, you will be waiting around for 15 minutes to make sure that you're okay, for no side effects. During that 15 minutes, we will have a nurse actually talking to you, watching you, and making sure that you're scheduling your next appointment to come in. And I think that's a really good system to make sure that the second appointment is made so that you will know that you're going to get your second dose all scheduled well in ahead. So we're not going to have people missing the second dose. Ultimately, we're really hoping that with the new vaccines coming up, like Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, talking about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that only need one dose instead of two. So that would seriously increase our vaccination numbers. Plus, we know that the Biden administration has already promised to try for 100 million people to be vaccinated by the first 100 days. And we are holding our elected officials, our government, to making sure that that's absolutely the case. And I really believe that with this new president that we have, we truly have a much better understanding of the need and the danger of COVID, to understand the logistical challenge that we're facing, that we will be able to get through this pandemic sooner than later. We've had already, it's sad to say, when we were seeing over 400,000 people dying from this in the country. And at one point we had over 4,000 people a day dying. And put that in perspective, 9/11, one day, there were 3,000 people that died. With COVID, we had more than that a day, and that's gone on for weeks. That's how sad the situation is for us. And then, of course, there's still other people who would not wear the mask. They would still don't believe in the science, and still think that this is a hoax, or this COVID thing is very, it's just like a regular flu. And then I hate to say it, the fake news is everywhere. It's still everywhere. Even though with the Trump out of office, we can still see a lot of those influence that he has made, those lies that he has told, is still very much believed by so many people. And there's going to be so much more work we will have to do. This white supremacist is not just an ideology or opinion. It's dangerous. If you don't remember how dangerous it is, look at what happened to the Capitol. Our own United States Capitol has been attacked by these treasonous mobs. And of course, even though hundreds of them have been arrested, I mean, today I'm just looking at the news about them trying to track down the guy who planted the bomb that very day at both the DNC and the RNC. These guys are not Democrats or Republicans. They are trying to hurt Americans. So let's get it clear that this is not about politics, and we got to be very, very clear that this is when we say that we want to defend our Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. This is exactly what we're dealing with. These are our domestic enemies, and we need to make sure that these type of devious ideology does not continue. Um, this election that we've just seen in November is really enlightening. We have the election in Georgia to see how few votes really made a difference, how it made a difference. And the fact that the two senators that's been elected from the state of Georgia is going to change the control of the United States Senate really make a lot more things that have become possible. Um, I, I, I can, overemphasize what difference really means. It's not about confirming just cabinet officials. It's about policies. It's about all these things that the last administration has done that we need to reverse. It's going to take a long time, actually, because as we all know, breaking something is easy. Trying to repair and fix something is always much more work. And I really need all of you to step up and rise up because and don't just go celebrate. It's great that we've got the candidate that we supported to be president, but the hard work is way ahead. I told people when I won this election for the supervisor seat, this is just the beginning. And if everybody thinks that, oh well, election is hard now, your survey should be easy. Some people thought that, but since I've been on board since December 8th, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it's been. I feel like I've been here for what 6 months already. I don't know why, Bob.
Not yet, not quite yet though. But Supervisor, if I could ask you a few questions that have
Please,
come
of
in.
course, yes,
Okay. Um, so one is outside of dealing with COVID-19, what's the other major issue that you've been dealing with since you've been in office?
sure. Of course, COVID is taking so much time away from us, but at the same time, the inequity issues resulting from COVID is so interesting. So, for example, one of the first issue I voted on when I got on the board of supervisor is regarding providing the feminine products for our girls because of the fact that with schools being out, a lot of them that normally get these products no longer get them in school, and of course that's very expensive. So the fact that we're able to find funding to do that for our young women and girls is of course very, very, very important. And then I mentioned earlier about the new idea of trying to pay more for our grocery store workers. At the same time, in terms of the jail construction, these are certainly no small issues. And by the way, in addition to that, we of course still have a homeless situation. So this morning, we actually convened about 25 folks from our local stakeholders of the homeless community, trying to fight on the removal of 20 individuals that have been homeless sleeping on these tents in the Fair Park in Sunnyvale for many, many years. And just so happened, because the city of Sunnyvale is doing some renovation of the park, they will have to be evicted. So we're trying to get extension of the time to let them stay a little longer, working with the mayor, county, city, and Sunnyvale Community Services, Home First, trying to get all the stakeholders together to really find ways to get them housing. Uh, the storm this week, as everybody could remember, the storm was very, very strong, and we really concerned about what those folks out there is putting up with, and it is so key that this homeless situation. Look, even if COVID's over, the homeless situation will not be over by then. And so we've been visiting a lot of homeless encampments like Jurassic Park. We've never been over there. Corey Place off of Oakland Road. It's fascinating to see that area. There's so many of those in our own district, and I certainly ask everybody. And of course, you living in Milpitas, Bob, you know about the Home Key project that I've worked with
Right.
some of the first to deal with those issues, trying to make sure that that project is going to be successful and not add, crime or trash or those type of issues that people are very concerned about. But I think we could do it if we work together. So small issues I've been working with. That's
Yeah. So first, I do want to thank you, the Board of Supervisors, and the Executive Office for that project. I agree with you. I think it's going to be wonderful for those that have a need to get off the streets, and I do think it's going to be handled in the right way. Lastly, you are on the VTA board, as I recall, correct? Aren't you on the board itself?
The joke was it was a one night stand. I only attended one meeting because that was for Dave Cortese, and then when the new year came on board, Joe Simonian became the VTA rep. I'm just alternate. So I was only there
Okay.
for one night.
So I must have read it when you were on there the one night. All right. Well, then, so when we come back next month, we are going to be asking the question about the extension, the light rail extension towards Eastridge, and want to make sure that you're supportive of that and your thoughts on that. But I'm going to save that till next month.
Sure.
And we will be inviting you back. We do want to get to Jeff Smith, and then we're going to bring you all back. Okay.
Great.
So thank you very much for your time. You're going to go back into the studio, then you'll be coming back. So we're going to go to bring Jeff Smith up first. He has a small presentation, then we're going to ask him some questions. So Jeff, you're on.
Hey, Bob.
So let me introduce you first. Because I've introduced you many different ways and many different groups, but I have to do with this group. You are the executive officer, the CEO for the county, and I have to tell you during these times. First, I have to say thank you for taking the time to coming to this meeting. I think the county's been doing a terrific job during this difficult time. And there's the policy side, and then there's the administrative side. Hopefully, most of the time you all agree, but not always. And it's always the administrative side that has to try to make sure that it ends up working. So I want to say thank you for all the hard work and those times that you have to make sure it does work. And thanks for taking the time to coming tonight. So I think one of the, if not the best county administrative CEO in the state, Dr. Jeff Smith.
Well, thank you, Bob. Hope to live up to that. I brought along a little slide deck actually from the board meeting on Tuesday, just to talk a little bit about some of the issues related to COVID. I hope you can see it. Is that something you can see now?
Yes, it's on.
There's a long deck, but I'm only going to put up a few of the slides. I thought the members might be interested in seeing what's going on with the case rates right now. This is the EPI slide. You can see the orange line, which is the 7-day rolling average of the number of cases in this county, in Santa Clara County. You can see it looks like we're on the backside of a surge, which is a good thing. However, as you look at the total numbers, surge still means that we're seeing, 1,000 or more cases per day, and we're well above the surge that happened back in July. So even though we're looking at some positive signs, it's only positive relative to a really disastrous peak. Here's a slide which shows the case rates in the county. And this is a real concerning slide for all of us, because what it shows is that the rates in East San Jose, which is the sort of orange line, Gilroy, which is the blue line, and South County, which is the yellow line, are significantly higher and continue to be significantly higher than the county as a whole, which is the green line. This really points out that this pandemic is affecting people of color and people in socioeconomic situations which are undesirable. So it's a huge problem, and we've tried to address, I'll show you later on, this problem by focusing our attention on those areas. This shows the case rate based on ethnicity, and you can see the Latinx population, which is the green line at the top, is dramatically more affected than the rest of the community, particularly the white population. The African American population is higher than white population, but as we all know, there's a relatively smaller population of African Americans who live in the county. So if we had a larger population, it would be considerably higher. Even though, again, we see some downturn, that's still a very high number. This is the age graph. So you split people up into their ages, and you can see that right now what's going on is that the age groups between 18 and 34 are the age groups where the most positivity occurs. So we're seeing a lot of positivity in the groups that have, let's say, not obeyed the sheltering and distancing orders as well as they should. And the older group, their case positivity rate is lower, but when we get to it, I'll show you that their death rate is higher. And this is the death rate. This is overall death rate. You can see we're in the midst of a big spike of deaths. We're over 1,000 now, well over 1,000 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. Most of the deaths are happening in long-term care facilities, nursing homes, and other congregate living. But there's a significant number in non-congregate living locations too. And here's the comparison of hospitalizations, admissions to the ICU, and deaths among age groups. You can see if you're over 75, you have a significantly higher risk of being hospitalized, of being in the ICU, or of dying. And I'll skip through some of these. This is a concerning slide because this is a projection. Again, it's a model from the University of Washington, which is a well-respected biostatistician group, oftentimes quoted on CNN and by the federal government. This is projection of deaths in California. Right now, we're at about 37,000 deaths. This projection shows that if we continued on our current level of protections, our current approach to sheltering and distancing, we would expect to have a total of 70,000, almost 71,000 deaths by the beginning of January or May. However, if we relax the restrictions, which the governor just did a few days ago, you can see that that number goes up into the 80,000 range. So by relaxing the restrictions, which was done by the governor a couple of days ago, he's basically taking a risk for 10,000 people's lives in this state. And again, most of them are older, most of them are people of color. That can explain why I was so upset and still am so upset that he did that. I won't go through the health order, but I will talk a little bit about vaccinations. Right now, we're not getting enough vaccine to vaccinate all of the people in the county. One of the previous slides, which I'll just summarize verbally, showed that with a population of about 1.9 million, we need to vaccinate about 1.5 million to get sufficient herd immunity to actually protect the population from the virus. That means we'd have to be able to do roughly 91,000 vaccinations a week, 13,000 a day, basically, and to be able to accomplish that by the end of the summer. And this actually is a copy of the allocation list for this week of doses that went to various assorted counties. And you can see we only got 20,000 doses for the entire week for this week. So we need to do 91,000 inoculations, but we got 20,000 dosages in vials. The main problem here is supply. It's not logistics. It's the fact that we don't get enough vaccine. That being said, we're doing better probably than others. You can see that, the LA gets the most. Obviously, it's the largest. San Diego, Orange, Riverside are all larger than us. Actually, San Bernardino is smaller than us, are not smaller than us, but they got a smaller number. And then over here on the right-hand side is what's called the MCEs, which are the multi-county entities, which are health systems that get their vaccine directly from the state. You can see they're not getting very much either. All of Kaiser is getting 32,000 doses a week. That's for the entire state, for every member of Kaiser. That's nowhere near sufficient for them to inoculate their members. On our website, you can keep track of this if you want to. This shows the website is sccfreevax.org, and what we have is a dashboard which shows how many doses have been given to various entities and how many have been administered, both first and second doses, and how many appointments are coming up in the next 7 days. I'll just show you that Santa Clara Valley Health System, we've received 69,000 dosages total. Actually put about 60,000 in arms for the first doses. And we've got about 22,000 appointments in the next week, and we're scoping that up. Our goal is to get up to a point of being able to do 15,000 inoculations a day. Obviously, that depends upon getting a lot more vaccine. But you can see that, there are all of the health clinics, Gardner, Northeast Medical, others, Planned Parenthood, Ravenswood, are also getting smaller doses of vaccine from us and doing a good job. The rate limiting step, again, being number of vaccine doses we get. This shows you where the vaccine sites are that are run by various members in the county. The red dots are county-run sites, but on the right-hand side are all of the sites. So we, as part of the county health system, are running vaccine clinics in Gilroy, at the Tully Clinic, at the Valley Specialty Center, which is on the VMC campus, in the fairgrounds, at Mountain View. As I mentioned, in the Gardner is running a clinic in the Mexican Heritage Plaza. We have listed the other clinics there also. So we're really trying to focus our attention on the east side of San Jose and on the Gilroy and South County area, focusing on equity, focusing on the group of individuals who are highest at risk for infection and death. And that is probably where I should stop, because the rest of it is all about hospitals, which probably people don't really care about right now. Am I back?
You are back.
Okay.
Good. Well, so first, that was really a lot of information and valuable information. And as you might guess, we have questions that have come up.
Sure.
One being, with it now being said that it's going to go to Blue Shield and Kaiser, your opinion about that, and what does that really mean, and your opinion about that?
Okay, well, first of all, we don't know what it means. We haven't gotten clarity from the state. We basically know as much as your members know, in the sense that we know what we read in the newspaper. We've been asking the state public health department directly over many phone calls and Zoom meetings. What does it mean? What's going to happen? How's it going to work? No answers. Just a lot of talking around in circles, and they keep telling us we'll know by the middle of February. But what we're concerned about is that, as Otto mentioned, we don't really have a logistics problem per se. We have a supply problem. We in this county and other counties have done a really good job of setting up the infrastructure so that we can supply all of these clinic sites and provide inoculations in the arms of our citizens, but we need enough of the vaccine, and that's really a supply problem. So hiring Blue Shield as an insurance company to deal with a supply problem makes no sense whatsoever. Even if you presumed that it was a logistics problem, why would you hire an insurance company to do a logistics solution? They only know about how to collect premiums and pay claims, and obviously they have to collect information from their members, but they're not, never have been, never will be experts in logistics or in supplying medical equipment or pharmaceuticals. So we're very, very, very extremely worried that what this means is that the allocation of the vaccine will become privatized, and that they will make decisions that are based on what's good for their health plan members, not necessarily what's good for the community. And every community, every county is unique. You know, we have in communities in our east side and south county that really need the vaccine. Other counties like LA, there's different locations that need the vaccine. A statewide insurance company will not be aware of those needs, will not be able to respond to the community's requests, will not be able to be held responsible by the community. And so if they take a position or create a system where Blue Shield makes all the decision about who gets the vaccine, we feel that the people who most need it in our county will be at the bottom of the list.
And that was one of the questions that came up. If you go strictly by age and don't take into consideration some of those things that you had talked about, the east side, South County, just being able to get to one of those sites from one of those areas could hinder vaccination for some of those communities. So how does the county become involved in trying to get Blue Shield or Kaiser to make sure that they are addressing some of those most neediest areas?
Yeah.
Or does that fall upon us as community members and nonprofits to press that issue?
Well, right now we have the control of the vaccine, so we're pushing appropriate targeting in the east side and south county, and we have the public health orders that compel compliance from the MCEs and others. And, you know, I don't mean to use the word compel as if they're not doing their fair share. They're really trying. Everybody's trying really hard. There just isn't enough vaccine. But we have a system set up right now that will work, that will deal with the equity issues and the age issues and the access issues. If it changes at the state level, if Blue Shield is given the ability to make those decisions, and the authority of the public health officer is diminished, then we will have to make it a political play at the state level to make sure that everybody who needs it gets it.
We'd like to let you know that we're ready to be helpful and to help in that regard, because we don't want our communities left out. And if we need to be partners in that, we're ready to do that, as we are if we need to do it alone. But we see that you have been taking that on, and we're thankful for that. We also think there's other groups that need to be looked at to be included in the higher levels, and so we're going to send those to you for consideration. Mostly because I see that we're running out of time, and I do want to get the rest of the group back together. So, are there? I do know that there are meetings with elected officials where you keep persons updated. Are there places where community members can listen to the same type of updates on an ongoing basis?
Yes, we have meetings with the elected officials basically every Saturday. We also have a vaccine community group that's run by Dr. Fensterscheib, which is got a huge membership with basically all of the community interest groups able to attend. I don't have the dates off the top of my head, but if you send me an email, I'll make sure that we connect you with that. Okay. We also have elected officials calls. We have PSAs. We've got Chebet, where we're actually hiring people to be promotoras out knocking on doors, making appointments for elders in the East Side. So we're trying everything we can to reach out to the community that's in need.
Okay. And maybe the last question before I bring everybody back, just maybe an update on the Los Gatos Union School District and Good Samaritan, and what's really taking place there. It depends on what you read and when you read it.
Yeah, well, I don't know the story intimately, but I know the reports back from the staff. I think what happened was there was a mistaken decision made at the hospital that they had the ability to authorize vaccine for other individuals than just the group that they're intended for. And they made some decisions that were unwise to give special treatment to teachers in a certain school district. Not to say that the teachers don't deserve a vaccine. Everybody deserves a vaccine, but they sort of didn't, this hospital didn't live up to the expectations. But that's being straightened out now. We decided not to give them any further vaccine until we got a correction plan, and that's being worked on right now.
Okay. So I have to tell you that we have a number of comments that really appreciate you taking the time, because your information is very detailed and up to the minute. I need to tell you that just in following that one case with the hospital and the school district, the hospital seems to at least they're trying to address the issue. The school district, not so much, in my opinion. It seems to me that the superintendent and the school board have yet to say that they apologize for the error. They just seem to keep thinking they're entitled to it. So I'm thankful that the county is holding the hospital to correcting the issue. I just wish that someone would hold that school district to that same sort of level of accountability. And I appreciate that the school teachers there that called attention to it. I'm thankful for them for doing that. So if we can call everybody else back on to see if there's any questions that anybody has for anybody that came tonight. So let's see there's Glenn. And is Otto still with us? Not seeing anybody. Not seeing Otto anyway. We're going to see if there's any last few questions. And I'm looking to see. Oh, yeah, Otto's not here. Yeah, they go to another meeting. And I don't see any other questions. So you said, though, I see one more. So, Jeff, you said that by the middle of February, we would know what role Blue Shield and Kaiser would have with regard to is it the distribution of the vaccine or the role in the vaccine?
That's what we're told. That's the best information we can get. But to be honest with you, I doubt we'll know much at that time either, because this whole idea was sort of put together over a very short period of time at the state level in very much secrecy. And I don't really think they know what problem they're trying to solve.
That I agree with. Dylan, I thank you both very much. And the supervisor here, I would say the same thing. I think that, so there is a question about social workers getting vaccine and putting them higher up. And so, Jeff, you will be getting that from us. And also and I had mentioned that, Glenn, because of the newspaper article about, and that we'll discuss at the next meeting with Evelyn, the newspaper article with regard to the rate of infection for drivers on VTA buses.
Yeah.
And I think I go back to something you said, Jeff, that it wasn't so much that persons are opposed to school teachers, social workers, those that are essential workers. It really is a supply issue. I don't profess to understand the process at all. It is mostly getting the information out, but we do want to make sure that we get any grouping, social workers, bus drivers, those categories that we think need to be pressed forward out to you folks to see what we can do to start pressing persons to getting them higher on the list, especially now that if some other entity is going to be deciding what that list is going to look like. So first, I want to thank you all very much for coming today. And I want to thank anybody that came tonight to watch. I know that others will be watching at different times. And with that, I want to thank you and have a pleasant evening. I have another meeting now to go to, but I can take the tie out for that. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.